This is Diesel for We the People News. So anything I say is just my opinion. I am not an attorney, nor care to be an attorney. I think what I think, and I do learn and figure things out on my own. I could be right and I could be wrong. After all, I'm just a man. True definition is just an idiot, an average man. Alrighty, this is the state commissioner conduct. Okay, basically, if you have a problem with the judge, you go to these people and file a complaint, and they'll figure out whether they do something wrong or right. That being said, look, y'all, I think we should end up going to the grand jury on a bunch of this stuff. I don't think this is the right way of doing it. And even if it's the right way of doing it, I think it has to be basically a jury type of situation, right? We the people. No judges judging, no lawyers judging. They're all cahoots in one another. So when you complain about all these people, it's judges and lawyers that work together to work together on whether judges are bad or good. And I think that, we in general need to learn the conduct of what the judges are supposed to do. And there's a guideline in the Texas judicial conduct. And if we just learn that, I think we the people should be behind the phones and taking these complaints and judging them. I don't think we should give judges authority to judge judges. Alright? This is the good old boy black robe line. You got the blue line for the cops. You got the black robe line for the judges. And you got the red line for attorneys. I don't know. I'm just making this up as I go. It's my opinion, though. And once again, if it's a criminal thing, at one time, we knew who the grand juries were. About 50 years ago, they keep the grand jury hid from us. Now, they say the grand jury safety. I do believe that is a deal for jury safety, but that'd be more along the lines for like a high crime. I don't think all juries should be hidden, if any of them. That's just nature of our country. And I think that we should be able to file paperwork, especially if you, what you call, represent yourself against anybody, and you should be able to file without going to an attorney. Because remember, y'all, we did this without attorneys before. And we've been banking on attorneys so much and judges so much, we've lost our ways, and look at our state of the country is in today. Alright, sorry about taking so long. Here we go.
By all the lawyers' rules. So we have a lot of ethical rules as lawyers that we have to subscribe to. We have all the rules that are promulgated by the State Bar of Texas. We have all the rules that are promulgated by statute. And then we have things like the Lawyer's Creed, which are kind of these aspects.
Yeah. That's created by attorneys. Every single one of the rules was created by attorneys.
Operational goals. They want people to come into court and behave properly. We kind of require that. It's not kind of require. We do require it. We demand it from the people who are participating in court. We need them to be that way so that we can weed through.
You have no authority to demand it.
Everything. Obviously, if people came in there and just screamed at each other, we would never get anything done. So there are these rules that we have to have the lawyers follow, and we subscribe to them as well, obviously, as judges. Which leads us to what the rules are for the judges. There are separate canons of law for judicial ethics, and then we have, as I said, this commission that deals with our rules. All right, so the state the state commission on judicial conduct is a group of people who sits down in Austin. There are judges from pretty much every level of the judiciary. So there's a municipal court judge that sits on this commission.
P.S. y'all, this is just about in every single state, and usually I think when it's said and done with, it's on average about 40 people. Some judges, most attorneys, very little of we the people involved in this.
There's a district court judge, there's a county court of law judge, there are lawyers who also are on this commission. Most of those are appointed by the Supreme Court of Texas. They get the authority to appoint those individuals to this commission. Then the governor gets to appoint public members as well. And they come from all over the state, and there's 5 of those members that the governor appoints. These are the people that hear complaints about judges. All right, I'm going to break down the numbers a little bit for you guys, because it's really not that exciting. But there is a place that you guys can go if there's a problem with a judge and what's going on with it. So keep that in mind. All right, so I broke down some of the complaints. In last year, fiscal year 2021, there were 1,700 complaints, which is not really a lot, all right, with the Judicial Conduct Commission. 1,700 complaints across the entire state of Texas. We have thousands of judges, and this is mostly what we got. So out of these 1,700 complaints, 62% of them had no actual violations contained with them. It's mostly people angry. Obviously, I'm going to make decisions that people are not happy with. One side's going to win, one side's going to lose in most of these instances, and so somebody's always going to be upset. I get that. That happens. And so a lot of the complaints, again, or somebody's upset one way or the other. And they run the gamut. Again, somebody with high weeds in a municipal court case versus somebody who's going to prison for 50 years in a case in my court. That's the kind of stuff that you get complaints about. All right, so now this is where I might be getting into trouble a little bit by talking about this. I'm not a fan of this commission. All right. And I think I can talk about it in the sense of this. A lot of the things that the commission does don't really amount to a whole lot of actual sanctions against judges that might be, I don't know how to word this. I got to make sure I'm wording my words correctly, or saying my words correctly so I don't get into trouble, as it were. But let me point this out. Out of all those cases that I mentioned, 93 cases resulted in some kind of discipline against a judge. Now, what does that discipline mean? 1 suspension. So 1 judge got suspended from their job for a little while. 8 resignations. Most of these were related to people who had criminal matters against them. So if they had criminal matters, they had to resign from being a judge. Out of that, you had public admonitions, 16 of those. Public warnings were 36. And then public reprimands, 4. So out of all of those 1,700 cases, what we had is basically a little bit under 100 of basically public warnings against judges. So how you feel about that is going to be up to you as it relates to that stuff.
Okay, how I feel about that. Number one, there's only 1,700 when there should be a minimum of 17,000. I mean, every judge is doing this. Okay? But they've gotten by with it for so long, and people don't know what the judges' jobs technically are. Most people don't really complain. So 1,700 is absolutely correct. There is not very many complaints. And he just plain out told you, well, there's not very many. But he's kind of looking at the aspect that most judges are doing a good job. No. Most people is not complaining about it. And when you do complain about it, you need to really give into great details of what he did wrong. So you got to learn what he did wrong in order to complain it. Okay? You can't just willy-nilly around it and expect them to really pay attention to you. You need to really call out what codes the judge is doing wrong, or statutes or whatever. Okay? So you really need to call it out on the numbers and all that kind of stuff.
I think that there are plenty of bad judges in Texas that sometimes ruin it for the rest of us, just like in any other kind of industry. There are judges that do things inappropriately. There are judges that do things that they shouldn't, and they say things that they shouldn't.
Now that being said, he just admitted that there could be bad judges. Well, he thinks there is bad judges out there, and but even if he's right in that thin line right there, you have to take it with a grain of salt. What is he saying in the background? Right? Look, basically, we the people are not complaining enough about these judges and actually having our due process corrected. Okay? Where's your due process when your county clerk is confiscating your land without the due process by letters in the mail and not summons? Stuff like that, right? Until it's too late. Where's your due process on that? And then the judge rides along to what they're saying. So just in tax law itself that you pay your land taxes on itself, judges and attorneys are screwing you over. Okay? They know that the county tax industry don't have these rights. And yet, somehow or another, your land gets sold off for $100,000 property for $6,000. And because we don't really sue the county, and lawyers don't sue the county, and we don't file complaints on the judges and complaints on the attorneys, they're just going to keep doing it, y'all. They just said out of 1,700, 100 of them was reprimanded. For them to be reprimanded like that, they had to be doing some... Either number one, the people actually knew what they're following and they went by codes and statutes of the judges, what they actually did do wrong. Or two, they made it so visibly clear they violated the rights. Excuse me. Most important of all, there should be more than 1,700 of them on family courts itself. By itself, there should be more than 1,700.
That obviously occurs. But as it relates to that, it's very difficult necessarily to get any kind of discipline because these are elected officials, right? Let's not forget, in Texas, we elect all these people. So the will of the people is really what covers that issue. And if you don't like...
That being said, I think if there's a judge in your county, I think the commissions should send out a notice in the paper what the misconduct and what the punishment was for that judge in that county, so we the people can decide whether we're going to vote for him back in or not. Sounds fair. Or accused of it and found innocent, but at least put in the paper that he was accused of it, so that way we can make the right decisions on the voting.
An opinion, or you don't like what a judge did, your only recourse in that situation is really the ballot box. So we sometimes see that online, and we see people complaining about decisions that a judge made online. Here's the problem with that. I can't respond. Okay, I can't actively respond to those kinds of complaints online. I'm not allowed to. My judicial rule as a judge is to be kind of a fair umpire as I can be. And so if I start commenting or getting into battles with people online, I am then in violation of my own rules. So I can't respond if somebody says Judge Tom made a bad mistake. He's a terrible judge, and he starts putting stuff online saying, I sent him to prison for life without any kind of due process or something along those lines. We are prohibited from talking about cases that I may have a ruling on, or I might have made a ruling on, because I have to let the process play out. And that's the very difficult thing of being a judge sometimes. Look, I'm a guy that I want to say exactly what I think. And these rules kind of hamper that in some respects. That's a trade-off. I'm supposed to be fair. And so if I start telling you guys how I'm going to rule on something, right, then it's going to be a problem. And so how that translates, when we talk about who's going to be on the Supreme Court, right, we always hear things in the news about, well, how they might rule on this, how they might rule on this. And then you see them in the front of the Senate saying, I can't tell you how I'm going to rule on that. I can tell you what I believe about the law and what this is and what this is, but I can't tell you how I'm going to rule on that particular point. Because you're literally ethically prohibited from doing that. And if you do, then it's not so much that everybody else is going to get mad at you, it's all the other judges are going to come after you for doing that. Because they have to. It is a rule that's there in place for a reason, and it prevents us from really saying anything about possible judgments or cases. And if somebody has a problem, they have to be able to appeal that case. And if that case is on appeal, I can't sit there and again say things. Now, where can I say things? I can say things in the courtroom. If we're having a hearing, the courtroom is open, everybody can come talk about it. We can have things there. They can call witnesses. Those people can all be heard. And I can say, my decisions in the courtroom, but I can't really do it online. And that's a very difficult thing. Believe me when I tell you, I would love to respond to a lot of things online. I just can't. And certain things, if I do respond or if I say something in advance of things, it's my obligation to recuse from saying that. So if I say anything about a particular case, in advance of it being there, or a very similar type of case being there, I would then have to recuse. So I can say, hey, this is how I would rule, and I won't lose my job for it. But I won't be able to rule on that case if that case comes before me, because then the party knows how I'm already going to rule. And then that's not fair to either side. And so that's a very difficult thing we deal with. And then most of these kind of complaints that we do have, again, are based on judgments. Some of them do run into the issue of judges doing things that they should, or saying things that they shouldn't, and then causing these kind of issues. And that's where most of these reprimands and admonitions come from that I've got highlighted here. All right, so this is an example of an order. This judge here, in Hidalgo County, Texas, was a municipal court judge, and I guess got pulled over and basically was admitting she was using whippets, nitrous oxide cartridges, in the parking lot there at the convenience store, and that's bad. So when she got arrested for that, this is a public admonition. She was told, do not do this again. You are making us look bad. So that's an example of a order from the State Commission on Judicial Conduct.
I don't know, people. Who's the victim? That's all I got to say about that. All right. This will be the People News.